Hi, normal Rata here, I think. We like to joke around and make fun of shapes over here at Ranked and Yu-Gi-Oh, but how much do you really know about shapes? For instance, the square is wanted in several states for arson. No matter what they tell you, it's not hip to be square. You may have heard of the good icosahedron, but the great icosahedron is in a league of its own. It's an artist's interpretation. But the worst of all has to be the hexagonal the pentagonal hexacocadrome. Of course, Bringleby must face him in combat, or it will be the end of shapes as we know them, which could lead to the creation of things such as the
Vylons!
Eh?
You were supposed to talk about Vylons, you absolute fucking buffoon!
If there's anything the majority of early dual terminal archetypes have in common, it's that without link era support, they age about as well as milk. The main reason for this is that most of them were based on subpar control effects, mostly without much synergy between their cards, and with a horrible lack of capability for swarming. Vylons are an interesting case by comparison. The archetype had a couple variants which were decent back at the time of their release, based around control or OTK, as well as an incredibly inconsistent one-trick pony variant which went by the name of Omega Turbo. Over the years, pretty much all well-known Vylon variants died out due to the game speeding up immensely, except for the aforementioned Omega Turbo, which got exponentially better with time, arguably peaking in Master Rule 4. So let's take a look at some geometry, shall we? It can get scary. We start off with Vylon Sphere, or an unhatched Linkuriboh if you will. It's a level 1 light machine tuner with 400 attack and defense and has the following effect. If this card is sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points to target one face-up monster you control, equip this card to that target. You can send this equipped card to the graveyard to target one equipped spell card in your graveyard, equip that target to the monster this card was equipped to. Sphere is definitely a staple in the deck, as far as Vylon monsters go. If used for a link or a synchro, it floats into a space in the spell and trap zone, from where you can use it to recover and equip, or even to make a column space for a Mech Knight if you're one of those people. See, the thing is, a predominant trend with Vylons is that you don't really care what they do after getting equipped, since the dreaded Omega Loop combo relies primarily on the equip aspect itself in order to function. If you just normal summon Sphere and make Linkuriboh with it, you have an immediate target for the equip effect, which can be useful on occasion. In a deck dedicated specifically to the spam variant, feel free to run 3 spheres and vary up the ratios if you're attempting a hybrid. Next up, Vylon TETRA. It's a level 2 machine tuner with 900 attack and defense, and just like Sphere, if it's sent to the graveyard from the monster zone, you can pay 500 life points to equip it to a monster you control, and if that monster will be destroyed, you can destroy TETRA instead. Same deal as Sphere, except this one has corners. You run it because it's a tuner, it makes needle fiber summons more tuners, at which point if you have more Vylon monsters available, you can proceed to make somewhat relevant plays. It just tends to be a problem for Vylons to do that in the first place without outside support such as Destrodil for example. However, a set outside support occasionally tends to clash with the combo you'd prefer to draw for the Omega Loop, so there's not much space for it in the Turbo variant. But as already said, TETRA is worth running about as much as the level 1 due to having mostly the same utility. Which is, again, the case for Vylon STELLA. It's a level 3 fairy tuner with 1400 attack and 200 defense, same floating 500 life point equip effect as the last two cards, and at the end of the damage step, if the equipped monster battle an opponent's monster, destroy the opponent's monster. Another effect which was tolerable back in the days of Hidden Arsenal, but is completely irrelevant nowadays. You run STELLA as one of your level 3 tuners, which gives you easier access to Ancient Fairy Dragon, which you can use to blow up Dragon Ravine or Union Hanger if you're playing a hybrid build, as well as get access to some additional field spamming. Quick update. During the period between the start and the end of this video's production, Konami of America banned Ancient Fairy Dragon, rendering the last 5 seconds of the video completely irrelevant. It's been a long time coming, but I can officially and safely say that Konami has actually shortened my lifespan by at least 5 seconds. Again, absolutely the same deal as the first two monsters. A slightly different tuner is Vylon Cube. It's a level 3 machine with 800 attack and defense, and if this card is sent to the graveyard for the synchro summon of a light monster, you can add one equipped spell card from your deck to your hand. It's some mighty good searching, but the condition is a bit annoying. It can help with searching the pieces for an important combo, but you're forced to use things like Cyber Dragon or Trident Warrior to gain easy materials for a synchro monster to go into with Cube, provided you have the zones for the extra deck monsters on your field. It's worth running due to a lack of better options, but that's kinda the standard for the deck at this point. Their first non-tuners are a pair of Union monsters, because those were so well received back in the day? Vylon, Pentachloro, and Tesseract are both level 4 light machine union monsters, one with 500 attack and defense, the other with 800 attack and 600 defense, and they both share the usual union effect. That being, once per turn, you can either equip this card from the field to a Vylon monster you control, or unequip this card and special summon it in face-up attack position. Only one union monster can be equipped to a monster at a time, and if that monster will be destroyed, destroy the union instead. While Pentachloro is equipped to a monster, if that monster destroys a monster by battle, you can destroy one card your opponent controls, and while Tesseract is equipped to a monster, if that monster destroys a monster by battle, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Vylon monster from your graveyard. Much like the shapes they're based on, the unions are fairly obscure in the whole scheme of things. Their union effects are decent, but they need to hit the field in order to equip themselves to a monster, and the whole battle destruction condition can be tedious to pull off. However, by sheer coincidence or divine intervention, Union Hanger makes Pentachloro and Tesseract the only easily searchable Vylon monsters, so it makes for a decent experimentation tool. Experimentation tool? It's Vylons! What the hell do you experiment with? Their next level 4 is Vylon Charger, undoubtedly based on the T-pose shape. It's a fairy with 1000 attack and defense, and all face-up light monsters you control gain 300 attack for each equip card equipped to this card. It's one of those Chinese store-brand chargers that delivers a lethal voltage straight into your testes when you unplug it. This tryhard Maha Vylon knockoff might have had some casual relevance in a format where your field wasn't in danger of getting blown up by the opponent simply exhaling, but right now there's no viability with it. Vylon Vanguard has 1400 attack and 1000 defense, and when this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can draw one card for each equip card that was equipped to this card. Oof, so close to being mildly okay for 2012. I guess they were under the impression that you were gonna stack this guy up to some astronomical attack values with equip cards, so the opponent would have no option but to pop it with a card effect, but that's not really what the Vylon equips do. I've seen better Vanguard cards, to say the least. Next up is Vylon Huh? It's got 1500 attack and 200 defense. If this card is normal summoned, target one equipped spell card in your graveyard, banish that target, and if you do, add it to your hand during your next standby phase. It's a card included in the first set ever released in Duel Links. I think that says more about its utility than I ever could. Use it to recover your Arfeu Tirtir. Have I fixed Noble Knights? Their last tuner is the level 4 Vylon Prism. More unworthy trash attempting to take over Prisman's righteous title. What a shame. It's got 1500 attack and defense. If it's sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points to equip it to a monster you control, and if the equipped monster attacks or is attacked, it gains 1000 attack during the damage step only. Back around 4 to 5 years ago, this was legitimately an excellent generic level 4 tuner, which for some reason was also a Thunder type monster, which gave it significant relevance in Hunter variants as a fairly solid synchro engine. With the help of Prism, your average level 8 synchro would become a fairly massive beater, and the effect of Crimson Blader would become a lot nastier. In a Vylon deck, you run it for the same reason you run the other tuners, except in this case you might actually use his equip effect. Sadly, before we get to the extra deck, we have 3 more monsters to cover, one of them being Vylon Stigma, a monster with 1600 attack and 1000 defense, which once per turn, during either player's turn, can use its long, lanky arms to equip a face-up Vylon equip card to another appropriate target on the field. This is what passed as a tolerable quick effect back in 2011, sharing equips with your buddies, Vylon no homo. Honestly, when it comes to the level 4 non-tuner Vylons, you're just picking the ones you deem to have the least bad effects, given that you'll barely find a situation in which to use them, and Mr. Smegma over here certainly does not qualify. Vylon Soldier has 1700 attack and 1000 defense, and when this card declares an attack, you can target monsters your opponent controls up to the number of equip cards equipped to this card, change those targets' battle positions. I wonder if they knew there's only 5 spaces in the spell and trap zone when they designed all these main deck Vylons with effects based on being equipped with a bunch of shit. Any potential usefulness this might have had is mostly swept under the rug by Link monsters who feel they are too important to be placed horizontally. Their last main deck monster is Vylon HEPT. Is it just a tradition for these dudes to skip leg day? Maybe they have spike day. He's got 1800 attack and 800 defense, and once per turn, you can target one Vylon monster card you control that's an equip card, special summon it in face-up defense position, but banish it when it leaves the field. This is generally what I consider to be their least bad level 4, turning your Vylon equips into Dragoonity Phalanx. However, there's too much setup involved in even the simplest play in this regard, and the card finds place in the deck solely due to being a level 4 Vylon non-tuner with an effect that's not completely miserable. Their first synchro is Vylon Delta, a level 7 with 1700 attack and 2800 defense, requires one tuner and one or more non-tuner light monsters, and if this card is in face-up defense position during your end phase, you can add one equipped spell card from your deck to your hand. Square up! It used to be a genuinely serviceable level 7 to go into on your first turn, since a 2800 wall would be a tad tricky to get rid of, and it could potentially set up a play for the next turn, but while it's mostly useless in any kind of build attempting to squeeze out maximum consistency out of this mess, it can be fine in casual play. The next level 7 is Vylon Sigma. It has 1800 attack and 1000 defense, it requires one light tuner and one or more non-tuner light monsters, and when this card declares an attack, if it's the only monster you control, you can equip one equipped spell card from your deck to this face-up card. Due to its more generic summoning condition and interesting effect, Sigma used to be ran as an OTK enabler, which you could jack up with a bunch of equips, primarily Mage Power and Twin Swords, and potentially fetch the final OTK piece upon attacking. Much like Delta, I feel like you could get some mileage out of this in casual play, or as a level 7 to go into with cube if you want to get its effect off. Vylon Epsilon is a level 8 with 2800 attack and 1200 defense, requires one light tuner and one or more non-tuner monsters, and has the following effect. Equip cards equipped to this card cannot be targeted by cards or effects. Once per turn, you can send one equip card equipped to this card to the graveyard to target one monster your opponent controls, destroy that target. Epsilon Control used to be one of the 3 most popular Vylon variants back in the day, alongside Sigma OTK and Omega Turbo, and this was mainly due to its easy summoning requirements, tolerable protection, and a simple destruction effect. Nowadays, Epsilon is a bit too slow to build a deck around, but it's a solid archetype level 8 to go into when available, due to its ability to clear out a problematic monster before you make further plays. I just don't like its long, freaky human fingers, please get it away. Vylon Alpha, the Chad Angelcock, is a level 9 with 2200 attack and 1100 defense, requires one Vylon tuner and one or more non-tuner monsters, and when this card is synchro summoned, you can target one equipped spell card in your graveyard and equip that target to this card. While this card is equipped with an equip card, it cannot be destroyed by spell or trap effects except for equip cards. Level 9 synchros are often a bit of a pain in the ass to summon, this one in particular due to requiring a Vylon tuner, and what you get for these efforts is a monster with stats below most level 5s in the game, a subpar recovery effect which could only ever prove to be useful if you manage to reset the Omega Loop with it, and a bizarre piece of protection which is not just irrelevant but also allows Alpha to be destroyed by equip spell effects. Now, I didn't really do too much research on this part, but I can only think of like 3 equip spells that destroy your opponent's monsters, and I really don't think Ekibio Drakmord was ever tearing up the meta to the point where Alpha needed this piece of text on it. It's not an awful card, in some situations it can result in a fairly strong monster, but the setup surrounding it really makes me feel like it's not worth the effort. But screw that, this is what you all came here to see, Vylon Omega, only the second most obnoxious synchro monster with Omega in its name. It's a level 10 with 3200 attack and 1900 defense, requires 2 tuners and 1 non-tuner Vylon monster, and when this card is synchro summoned, destroy all face-up monsters that were normal summoned or set. Oh no, it's literally stronger than the Egyptian gods! Once per turn, you can target one Vylon monster in your graveyard and equip that target to this card. During either player's turn, when a monster effect activates, you can send one equip card equipped to this card to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. I'm gonna hand it to all dual terminal archetypes, they usually knew how to make a sick final boss monster. Disregarding the somewhat strange double tuner summoning condition, which is only shared by some Red Dragon Archfiend monsters, in combination with the Vylon tuner's loading equip effects, Omega provides a potentially massive amount of disruption, especially today when most decks are primarily reliant on monster effects to make any plays. Regardless of which variant you're going for, you should always find space for Omega in your extra deck. You know how they say, always leave room for Jesus. Their last monster is a bit more obscure though. Vylon DISIGMA is a rank 4 Xyz monster with 2500 attack and 2100 defense, requires 3 level 4 monsters and once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card to target one face-up attack position effect monster your opponent controls and equip that target to this card. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster whose attribute is the same as a card equipped by this effect, destroy that monster. It's legitimately a fantastic removal effect, arguably on par with number 101, but the fact that it requires 3 materials is supremely annoying. It most likely wasn't even printed as a Vylon card in the first place, given that it's one of the first Xyz monsters in the game, so they just wanted to introduce the mechanic with some fairly strong monsters. Oh well, at least it's not baby Tyragon. And now we move on to the spell lineup, the essential component of the Vylon strategy. We start off with their 4 equip spells: Vylon Segment, Vylon Component, Vylon Material, and Vylon Filament. They all share the following effects: can only be equipped to a Vylon monster, and if this face-up card on the field is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Vylon spell card from your deck to your hand. As for their individual effects, Segment prevents the monster it's equipped to from being targeted by monster and trap effects, Component makes the monster deal piercing damage, Material increases the monster's attack by 600, and Filament disables the opponent from activating spells or traps while the monster is attacking. Similar to the tuner monsters, most of the time you won't really care about the equip effects as much as you'll use the cards to fuel the Omega Loop, which we'll get to in just a minute. As for the effects themselves, Segment is pretty good, Filament is okay, Material is fine, and Component is meh. In a casual build not oriented around Omega, I'd recommend maxing out on Segment and throw in a couple of materials and filaments. Now, you see, the real turd in this shit sandwich is Vylon Element, a continuous spell that says, when any face-up Vylon equip cards you control are destroyed, except during the damage step, you can special summon an equal or lower number of Vylon tuner monsters from your deck. They cannot be used as synchro material monsters except for the synchro summon of a Vylon synchro monster. By itself, this is not exactly a big deal. After all, it's pretty mediocre recursion all things considered. However, However, the cog that makes this machine spin is Rod of Silence KS, which negates and destroys all spells that target the monster it's equipped to. How does this result in Omega? Well, let me provide you with a quick cop-out by letting 2016 Rata explain it in detail. You need to control a non-tuner Vylon monster, Rod of Silence which is equipped to said non-tuner, Vylon element which allows you to special summon a Vylon tuner from the deck each time a Vylon equip card you control is destroyed, and a single Vylon equip in your hand. Since every Vylon equip has an effect to search out another one when it's destroyed, by repeatedly equipping them to the monster with Rod of Silence on it, they all get destroyed and search out more of themselves, while in the meantime Vylon element special summons Vylon tuners, allowing you to go into Omega with at least 2 or 3 monster effect negations immediately available. Oh, to be back in the days when I still had energy in my voice. Anyway, the thing I mentioned near the start of the video was that Vylons get arguably better in Master Rule 4, and this is primarily due to the Omega loop effectively turning into a link spam engine, which can result in some fairly formidable nightmare boards, which you don't even need a non-tuner for. So yeah, the best thing Vylons have going for them is a Guardian equip. You hear that? For once in your life, you're not a dumpster fire. Their only normal spell is Vylon Matter. Vylon Don't Matter. Select 3 equipped spell cards in your graveyard, return them to the deck and apply one of these effects. Draw 1 card, or destroy 1 card your opponent controls. You generally don't want to draw into this on your first turn, but it's a fantastic recycling option when you're balls deep into the Omega loop. It gives a bit more mileage to the monster spam, and offers an immediate benefit in the form of a draw or spot removal of a problem card. Running 1 or 2 of these is usually recommended. The final Vylon card is Vylon POLYTOPE, a quick play spell which lets you target any number of Vylon monsters treated as equipped cards in the field and special summon them in face-up defense position, but banish them when they leave the field. It has its fair share of specific utility, but it's really not recommended in most builds. You rarely find yourself in a situation where activating POLYTOPE would lead to a noticeably stronger play, and even worse, the monsters get banished if you use them for a link or synchro summon, so any piece of retrieval you might have is essentially useless. Although, it's kinda funny how it looks like somebody flattened Psy Gear Alpha's head like a pancake. The grading scale is gonna be a bit tricky here. Their consistency is quite honestly garbage and requires way too much setup for the most basic of searching. Their power output is minuscule, but Omega is pretty fat and Sigma has an OTK built around it, funnily enough involving another Guardian equip, so I'll give it a 2. Their recovery is based on extremely unconventional floating effects, as well as Vylon Matter which can often be dead in your hand, so it's there, it's just not very good without extensive setup. Their protection is limited to Segment and Filament, as well as the very specific effects of Alpha and Epsilon, which I don't consider particularly deserving of praise. However, in the versatility department, the amount of crazy shit you can pull off nowadays with the Vylon element loop is downright stupid, so disregarding how inconsistent the loop actually is, it's strong enough to warrant a 3. Here's a barely functional mishmash that results in the occasional Nightmare Extra Link alongside Hidden Armory for some desperate equip searching. I would show an ABC variant, but Konami generously banned Ancient Fairy Dragon during the making of this video, so I don't really feel it's worth mentioning. Feel free to replace the Trident Warrior with any generic link engine you can think of, and if you can find place for Union Hanger, replace Vylon HEPT with Tesseract. Vylons are by far my favorite archetype in the game in terms of aesthetics, so I'm understandably miffed by them not exactly being shining beacons of quality card design. Hell, their best combo is entirely reliant on an equip card which is not even a part of their own archetype. If they don't draw into that card as soon as possible, it's basically game over, so their playstyle can very easily be described as loop or scoop. I actually think Vylons are one link monster away from being a genuinely good swarm deck, and given that we've seen a resurgence of hidden arsenal archetypes in the form of New Dragoonity, Evil Storm and Gemini support, I wouldn't be surprised if Vylons get a similar treatment in the future. There's plenty of shapes to choose from, such as my favorite, the Squircle.
Ow!
My son, rise so I may greet you.
Oh man, eating that cactus was a bad idea.
You are not dead. I have called you here to warn you of a terrible danger.
What?
I will grant this gift to—
What?
Can you hear me?
You're too high up, it's all echo down here.
Listen to me carefully. I am your lord, your god.
Who?
I'm the guy on the solemn cards.
Oh, Solemn Johnson.
Sure, let's go with that. In recognition of your many trials and tribulations, I have chosen you to be my avatar of the realm of the living.
Are you sure about that? I don't even have fingers.
Hang on. Your name is Air Knight Parshath, right?
I don't know. I forgot.
Send him down.
Ow. Wow, what a lovely place. What a lovely face.
Hi there everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Archetype Archive, and big thanks to my friend Svit for the voice of Solemn Johnson himself. Follow me on Twitter, pledge to the Patreon for the Discord server, and keep in mind I'll be uploading a bit less until July when I'm done with my exams. Regardless, my name's Rata, and I'll see you next time.